It's Wednesday, so you know what it means. We're going to go through the do's and don'ts that I want to see this weekend from LSU versus Ole Miss. So we're going to go through a list of things that LSU needs to do, things that Blake Ruffino believes and thinks and sees, like, what do you got to do to win this football game? There's a lot. What do you got to avoid? I think the things that you got to avoid or don't do in this game to beat Ole Miss is pretty simple. Now, they're pretty massive, pretty big hurdles to overcome, but there's only two. Let's start with them. Number one, and I tell you, if it's your first time watching this, this is in zero order whatsoever. So I'm just thinking about things. They're all going to be in the same thing. So no specific order, like boom, 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 boom. If you don't do these in order, you're going to lose. No specific order. You gotta limit turnovers if you're Garrett. Well, last time we saw you, you had two very bad mistakes against South Alabama. The week before that, against UCLA, you were mistake-free against a very bad team, guys, of the 129th rated total defense in the country, UCLA. Garrett was good. No issues there. But a team that actually has a pulse defensively, the game before that in South Carolina, you turned the football over once, probably should have had a technically turned over twice, and then you turned over on downs, the entire offense, not just Garrett included. You turned the football over on downs at the 6-inch line. Guys, you cannot give this team extra possessions. If you do give them extra possessions, they are going to beat you, and they're going to put a whipping on you because of their front. They're going to be able to push defensively. You can't play around with them. And you can't make critical mistakes. Guys, I'll be real with you. If Garrett goes 25 of 35 for 303 touchdowns, I will take that. I know that's a massive stat line. What I don't want it to look like is 35 for 50 for 400, 4 touchdowns and 2 picks. Like, I don't want to be in a scenario where we're trying to have to play catch-up all night, and then you're turning the football to play catch-up all night. I don't want to get in a shootout with them. Guys, getting in a shootout with Lane Kiffin is like basically it's like tampering with or toying with the devil on if you're going to sell your soul or not. Don't do it. It's idiotic. Now, Brian Kelly said on Monday that it makes him, and I'm quoting, uncomfortable to play those style of games. He did it because Jane Daniels was special. Well, good on Brian Kelly for changing his complete philosophy on something and letting Jane go out there and do what Jane does. It hurt you, but good on you. I agree with him. I don't like getting in these shootout battles with teams. I want to play more complementary football, and that's what you're going to have to do. I think you can generate some turnovers on this team. I think you can get to Jackson Dart, which we'll talk about in a minute. All in all, for everything that it's worth, you got to play clean football. And you know what I'm saying. I think Garrett has been really good this season. Borderline some things that he's done has been great. I think of the throw to Mason Taylor over the middle. I think about the really good throw he made to Kyle Parker, the exceptional throw that he made to Kyron Lacey. I also cannot get those interceptions in critical moments out of my head. And listen, you're up 35-7. You can go put the game away and sit on the bench for the rest of the night. We're out there lollygagging around. You got to find a way to eliminate turnovers. Take the sack. Don't force the ball if it's going to be an interception because you don't want to get hit. Go down, save yourself, stay healthy. Just don't give them extra possessions. Number two, the only other thing that I don't want to see is, and I think it's the biggest question mark that I have for this team, are you going to get lost in coverage? Guys, the truth is, against really talented wide receivers against USC, you were pretty good. Now, they didn't motion you a lot. They didn't get you in a lot of confusing situations. I don't think that you played bad at all. I thought you were in the right place. They just made ridiculous athletic plays, I'm glad that you're in the right spot. Really, I am. I think that because your offense cannot convert on many really crucial situations in the second half, that you are back on the field over and over and over again, and your offense couldn't be more complimentary to you. Guys, you can't say this safety position lost. Guys, if we start seeing that the safety room is getting lost in space and lost and not what they're knowing what they're needing to do, we're in for a very long night. The boundary is what the boundary is at corner. I mean, look, I think they got some talent. I think they have some athleticism. I think Ashton Stamps has got to play a massive game. A massive, massive game. You need, for once, some of your seniors in that secondary to stand up. I don't know if they can. I really, really don't know. You know, every time I try to put faith in them, I don't know anymore. And I want to be proven wrong. Like, I want to come out here on Saturday night and say, man, Major Burns had some critical plays. You know, I actually did that after the USC game. I know he gave up the one-handed grab. That's a one-handed catch, guys. What else is he supposed to do? I mean, come on. Like, that's a absolutely ridiculous catch, the one against USC. Because he made a lot of tackles at the line of scrimmage in the running game. He covered really well in the flat. He blitzed a lot. I mean, he got a really big sack, a really big hit on Miller Moss that forwarded him to have a bad throw on a crucial third down. I want to come out here and say that. Do I think that I am? I don't know. Like, I'm skeptical that I can do that. Like, I want to say, hey, man, that's a really good tackle in space on a critical third down by Sage Ryan. I don't know if I can do that. But you know what I can live with? I can live with you losing a football game and your players out there just not being able to make plays. What I cannot live with is you being in the wrong spots. I can't anymore. Like that. I would rather this Ole Miss team to come out here and break tackles and you can't tackle in space and one tackle's missed, two tackles missed, and they get a first down before you bring them down. I can live with that. I can't live with a guy being wide open because there's a busted coverage. Cannot do it. Won't do it. Won't do it. I am done defending that. I'm done defending it. The only common denominator now is you. Do you love it or not? And if you don't love it, then you don't need to be out there. Guys, to the players, if you don't love it anymore, get out. Tell your coaches, I'm out. Mentally, I am checked out. They won't play you. You going out there and playing, even though you don't love it, hurts everybody else around you. It's the most selfish thing that you can do. Show me that you can do it. I've seen flashes over the years of you doing it. I've seen flashes of Major Burns making good plays. Because last time we saw Major Burns, he had 2 passes deflected. Like, what are we discussing? But if your safety play is chaotic, you're going to be chaotic. You're going to be chaotic. So we'll see. The only other thing, too, and I just really got to, how do I want to put this? You can't let the moment get too big for you. You know, I feel like as a fan base, I feel like as just players, we have let these high-profile games get to us too much. The moment has been, for some of us, that we sit here and say, man, you got to win this one. And I'm included. I do think they got to win this one. I'm right there with it. But from a player's aspect, like from just a pure player aspect, LSU aspect, this moment can't be too big for you. I can say it. Anybody else in the media can say it. The Rudy Poo dude down the street can say it. Everybody else can say it. The fans can say it. You as a team and a coaching staff cannot let this moment be too big for you. I don't think it's big enough on Blake Baker. I know it's not big enough on Kevin Peoples and Bo Davis. You've been in some crucial situations with your head coach. He's been in them. Your OC has been there with the last 2 years when you've been in very big crunch situations, meaning Joe Sloan. Guys, Joe Sloan's been here a while. I feel like they have been here a while in the sense of, okay, well, they've been in these crucial situations through these 3 years. You got to take a deep breath. Woosah, take you a gummy, do whatever you smoke a joint, do whatever you got to do. Make not players, but I'm talking about just the overall aspect. Don't let everything around you get too big. You know, I'll never forget this. In the beginning of the season in 2022, I had an interview with Jared Bernard Converse, and we did the shoot. We published it. We put it on when me and Matt Trent were doing some things, and we talked about it. After the shoot, I was talking to him and Jay Ward, and I was like, Jared, and I just remember this like 10-minute conversation with him, and I was like, look, man, every time I watch you play, it seems as if that, like, if there's a play that gets on, like you give up a catch or you give up a big play, you seem as calm the very next play as you were the play before that. Why? Because you got to flush it. You just got to play every play like it's your last. And I'll never forget that. And that's what made a guy like Jared Bernard Converse, who wasn't a highly drafted kid, because he was on an active roster this year. Now, he's been up and down, and he's an active roster, but he was solid. That's what I need from you. I need maturity. I need maturity. I need maturity in the sense of that you know what you're doing. You've been in this moment before. Don't act like you haven't been. Guys, Major Burns, Sage Ryan, Jordan Gilbert, hell, I mean, Ashton Stamps was in three high-profile games last year. Braden Swinson, Savion Jones, Greg Penn. Like, they have been here a while that they've played big-time ranked opponents like this. This is nothing new. Most of them were on that team when LSU took down Bama in 22. You know what it took. You know exactly what it took. Are you doing what happened during that week? I'll shed some light in for you. Guys, in 2022, during the week of Bama, the week before and the week of, Jaden Daniels and that offense did not leave the facility. Didn't do it. Did not do it. Malik Neighbors and Jaden were up there. And Mason Taylor were up there so much during the bye week and during the week leading up to it. And it paid off. 1,000% paid off. No, been told by multiple people, even leading into the game. We actually talked about it on this show. Like, hey, man, they're pretty locked in on this one. Like, they're going through everything, every scenario, every play, etc. Those guys wanted it. Jared Bernard Converse wanted it. And I'm not saying that I am trying to limit or put out there that you might not, but your actions don't show me that on the field. Your actions show me that you continue to make the same mistakes. Guys, not knowing your assignments, I understand that you can get confused on something that you haven't seen. Guys, some of this stuff is a tight end going in the flat. A tight end going on a post and a motion guy going in the flat. Like, that's common stuff. Who's got the flat route? Okay, well, the backer does. Okay, well, then I'm going to play the middle third and take the post. That's as simple stuff that you constantly got beat with last year. You've gotten beat with it again this year on two crucial plays on third down. It's misassignments that you're missing and why you're giving it up. Most of them through the air, all of them being blown coverages outside of one that Ashton Stamps gave up on a fade route against USC. That, by the way, the safety's not over the top enough to help him in a man-on-man situation. So even that, the guy that needs to be there to give him help is not even there. I want to have faith. I really do. Like, I really, really, really do want to have faith that you can do that. The problem that I keep coming back to is that I just don't know if I can. You got to show me that you can't blow coverages. And if you can do that, maybe we'll have a discussion. Let's get to some things that LSU needs to do. Now, this one is in a specific order. The thing that I'm about to talk about is in a very specific order because I think it's what's going to happen. Ole Miss is 76th in the country in giving up sacks this season, team sacks. It's not as if that they have not played some really good defensive fronts. I mean, South Carolina's got a couple of pair of defensive ends that are good. Kentucky's got a really stout defensive line. They've gone against some really good defensive lines the last 2 weeks. They've given up a fair amount of sacks. They've given up 11. The thing that LSU must do, I know that Trey Harris exists. I know that Trey Harris is out there. And I do think Trey Harris is going to play in this game. I also know that Jackson Dart has looked a little bit off because teams have sent pressure after him, and it's paid off. Guys, there's not a lot that Blake Baker needs to change in some aspects. When he gets in these crucial third downs, I got to tell you, I'm going after Jackson Dart all night long. Like a Cisco theme song. Let me see the thong, baby. All night long. Guys, they have been very bad in pass pro. Very bad. Specifically at moments on the right side of their offensive line, guys that are rotating in because of injury. They'll get some guys back. I don't think it's going to help. I think you got to send the heat. You got to send the pressure after Jackson Dart. If he flushes, you got to keep contained. If he pushes up in the pocket, you got to get your defensive tackles there and stalemate him and make sure that he does not get outside of that pocket. You got to go after him. The game plan is out on Jackson Dart. Let's look at the last 3 times that he's had losses. Kentucky, one of the most sacked games that Jackson Dart had at Ole Miss. Alabama a season ago. Georgia the year before or the game after that. The teams that have been able to have massive amounts of success against Ole Miss, historically the sack numbers are up. You got to go after their ass all night long. Now, last year, which is why a lot of you have that passive thought in the back of your mind of, hey, man, this team's going to get beat. Oh, LSU defense isn't good. Well, they're 15th in the country in sacks, and they haven't played the same amount of games as teams that are in the top 10. So what is the best thing that you do on the entire team? Well, it's converting on third downs. Offensively, you're 11th. Guys, the second best thing that you do as a team is get after the quarterback. Your pressure rate is in the top 10. Your havoc rate is in the top 5. Your sacks is in the top 15. Jackson Dart does not like getting hit. Now, the thing about getting after Jackson Dart is that if you let him escape, he can beat you with his legs. And that can be a problem. This would have been an ultimate Harold Perkins type of game in some aspects where you can spy him and you can send heat after Jackson Dart and Harold Perkins can run down Jackson Dart and make plays. We saw a very inconsistent and very bad defensive coordinator, Matt House, last year or 2 years ago in 22 do that exact thing. The exact thing that they did. They had Harold out there to spy, Russ the passer. It worked. Why did you go away from it? Why did you go away from it? It's the stupidest thing that you could have done, not sitting heat after Jackson Dart. Their O-line has struggled. They have struggled. It is time for you to go out there and not be passive anymore on defense. Guys, I would rather die on my sword than lay down and let somebody else come and stick their sword in my chest. You gotta go all out, man. I'm telling you, you can do it. I promise you on my soul. That's probably too deep. Actually, it is too deep. That's what she said. I promise you, if you send the heat, you're going to get to Jackson Dart. And we have seen historically when he starts taking hits, he does not like it. I know Brian Kelly this week said that he's a tough competitor. He's a tough kid. He is. He's taken some big hits, and he's gotten right back up. I commend him for that. What I also know is that when he gets hit big, his play normally gets really affected. You got to send the pressure and you got to send the heat. Braden Swenson's got to be your go-to dude. Guys, if Braden Swenson can be as effective as he's been the last couple of weeks, you are in for a good night. But that is the key area. I'm telling you, it is the key area of how you should and could and will have success. Get after their ass. No excuses. If you can get there with 4, great. If you can't get there with 4, sorry, you're going to have to go man up. And you know what? The seniors that are in your secondary got to drop their nuts because you got to go out there and kick somebody's ass. Screw all this passive mumbo jumbo. Get after his ass. I'm telling you it's going to work. If LSU comes in here and doesn't have a sack, you will have lost the game. If they have 1 sack, they will have lost the game. Jackson, you got to get him down at least twice. Get after his ass. All right. Number 2, stay with the running game. You know, it's interesting. South Carolina looked like complete ass last week offensively against Ole Miss. There was something that they did, though, that I think we need to pay attention to. I think that D-line for Ole Miss is really good. They've been really good. But, man, after, the first 4 drives, it was interesting. South Carolina started moving the ball on and running the football. Now, Ole Miss was up 14, and I get it. South Carolina ran for 151 yards on Ole Miss. And I do wonder, with a better offensive line, South Carolina, by the way, 133rd in the country in run game efficiency inside the tackles and runs. That's crazy because they hit 1 on you. And then 2, they're 133rd dead last in the country in pressure rate. They were able to have effective moments where they ran the football on Ole Miss. Stay with it. I don't know what the status is of Caden Durham at the current moment. I'm sure that we're going to find out soon enough. But the injury reports are just came out. Jalen Lee, probable. Javier Suggs, probable. Caden Durham, probable. C.J. Daniels, questionable. Chris Hilton, questionable. Wes Weeks, doubtful. So that is your injury report for LSU. With that being said, you got to feed number 29. You got to feed number 29. You got to stay with him. Get him the ball out in space, extensions of the running game, and let him run the rock. I feel like your O-line can still have success. J.J. Pegues, Walter Nolan, Princely Umanmielen, who may be coming back from an injury. I mean, the reports are coming out now, so I just want to make sure that we're not saying anything that might not happen. Princely Umanmielen, the really good defensive end for Ole Miss, is questionable. So we'll see. So is Trey Harris, and so is J.J. Pegues. We'll see, man. We'll see. I think all those guys that are questionable, Pegues, Umanmielen, I would be very – I think that they're going to go. Now, what is pretty big is that I'm just going to throw that out there. Matt Jones, their backup running back, is doubtful. He was their second back. Where's Ulysses Bennett been? Is this the game that they Bentley's not Bennett. Where is Ulysses S. Bentley been? Oh, it's calling Bennett. So maybe he gets some more touches, and we're just like, this is the game that he comes out of nowhere and just plays really good. I don't know. Boy, but wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something if Ulysses Bentley comes out in this game and does something good? You got to stay with it. You got to stay with it. We talked about this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. You got to attack them on the far left boundary. You have to. It's not even a question of what you have to do. LSU's report says Kyle Parker's outfigured. We'll get to that. I know, guys. I'll get to it right here. I'll just have to cut through the segments. There is some news. Wilson Alexander reporting that Kyle Parker is out against Ole Miss. Yeah, that elbow, man. You're beat up at receiver. That's 3 receivers. All that are questionable are out. C.J. Daniels, Chris Hilton, and Kyle Parker. Kyle Parker being out, I don't think C.J. Daniels goes. I don't think C.J. Daniels plays, and I don't think Chris Hilton plays. If you ask me today, I don't think any 3 of them play. That's just me. Let's get back to it. Attack. Well, it's good that we talked about that because we were talking about it. No, I might leave that in. We're talking about attacking the far left boundary. Kyron Lacey, if you're as good as you say that you are, and I know that you tell people, I was on with Mike Detillier last week, and Mike Detillier was saying that last time he talked to Kyron's like, I'm going to be the best. This is the game to go show it. This 100% is the game for him to go show it. What I would say is that you need number 2 to have a big game for once. Instead of just barking to your – I hope that Kyron's not barking at Nuss the whole time. We need you to just be you. Go out there, catch the ball. We need you to be 22 Kyron. If he can be 22 Kyron that catches all those hitch routes and gets first downs, you're going to win. You're going to win. They don't have a far left boundary corner that can tackle. I'm telling you they don't. I'm telling you, if Wake Forest, Kentucky, and South Carolina all attacked that one thing and had success. And you're better than them throwing the football. So I've already talked about that ad nauseum. You got to take that far left boundary. There is a player in the game that I'm most intrigued to see here. That's LSU tight end Mason Taylor. Chris Paul is somebody that Ole Miss got through the transfer portal this past year. The linebacker from Arkansas. And it's very interesting to me, mainly due to the fact that Chris Paul has been a really good linebacker of late. And he was one 2 years ago. He was one last year. I think he got hurt in the middle of the year last year. But I think that you can do some schematical things with Mason Taylor to get Chris Paul out of the box. Running those RPOs. They did this with Mason last week. I'm pretty sure to get it more on film again for Ole Miss. But the old Jaden Daniels RPO tight end in the flat, give it, keep it, or throw it. And if that happens, Chris Paul is going to have to go out and on the RPO that's going to free up the box. Mason Taylor and the weapon that Mason Taylor is frees you up in that situation in the running game. They're going to probably put Chris Paul on him. And I don't know. I think Chris Paul can be good on Mason Taylor. I don't think he's as physical as Mason is. So, with that being said, I think that you need to feed Mason Taylor early. Catch or 2. First couple of drives. Get him fed in there. See what happens. But I think as the game goes on, I think the strength and the physicality of Mason Taylor can outweigh these linebackers and can really start weighing on them in the running game because I think he is going to be that physical. Mason Taylor, very big key in this game. If he can be physical. I don't need him to have 4 catches for 50 yards in the first half. If he does that, that would be great. But if he doesn't, it's still okay. Get him some early touches. Let him be physical against these really talented linebackers who, by the way, are a little bit more undersized, but that can really fly. Last but not least, The worst area this year against some really bad opponents throwing the football has been Ole Miss's secondary. Guys, they're 58th in the country in passing yards allowed. Let's roll through some of the teams that they've played. South Carolina, not a good throwing the football team. Not a good team that can sling the ball around to multiple guys. Kentucky, not a team that can throw the ball around a lot. Wake Forest, well, they're not that good either. Dookie Water State, do you see where I'm going with this? I know that you need to stick to the running game if it doesn't have success early. You need the running game to open up some things for Nussmeier. The God's honest truth is, man, multiple teams that can't and have not shown that they can throw the football consistently have had very serious amounts of success tossing the football around. If you are unable to do it, then that's going to be an outlier. It's going to be an outlier.